Everybody in Oke Irora knew Baba Fatai not because he was rich, educated, or important, but because his palm wine was always sweet. Sweet enough to make men forgive their enemies. Sweet enough to make women laugh at jokes that were not funny. Sweet enough to make secrets slip out of mouths like loose teeth. Baba Fatai was a short man with legs, shaped like question marks from years of climbing palm trees. His stomach pushed forward proudly as if it arrived at places before the rest of his body. He wore the same brown cap every day, the kind that had absorbed so much sweat. It had developed its own smell and personality. Every morning before the cock crowed its second insult at the village, Baba Fatai would shoulder his rope, whistle a tune nobody recognized, and head for the palm grove. Palm wine no dey tap itself, he liked to say. On the morning of the fall, nothing warned him that his life was about to spoil like palm wine left open too long. The sun was gentle, the breeze was playful, even his nails, usually noisy like old radio static, were cooperating. Today go be good, he muttered, spitting to the side. He tied his rope, tested the trunk with a slab, and began to climb. From the ground, the palm tree looked innocent. From halfway up, it began to look like trouble. But Baba Fatah had climbed worse trees after drinking worse palm wine. What he did not know, what nobody knew, was that someone else was already thinking very hard about him. As Baba Fatah reached for the next notch, something strange happened. The world spoke, but not with sound. He must fall today. The thought entered his head like an uninvited guest and sat down comfortably. Baba Fatai froze. Who thought that? He asked the tree. No answer. He shook his head and laughed nervously. Palm wine don't enter my brain early. He climbed again. If he does not fall, the truth will never come out. This time, the thoughts came clearer, sharper, like it had been polished. Baba Fatai's heart began to beat like it was trying to escape poverty. Today no be April Fool, he whispered. His foot slipped, the rope snapped, the sky turned upside down, and Baba Fatai fell. When Baba Fatai woke up, the first thing he noticed was pain. The second thing he noticed was silence. That was not silence. He was lying on a raffia mat inside Mama Ejiro's shop, surrounded by bodies pretending to be helpful. Thank God he breathed. Someone said, "Is Ed still complete?" Another asked. I told him that tree was angry. Mama Ejiro asked. I told him that tree was angry. Mama Ejiro added, sucking her teeth. Baba Fatai tried to speak, but his mouth was dry like gari without sugar. Then something strange happened again. Mama Ejiro opened her mouth and said, Thank God you wake up. But what Baba Fatai heard was something else entirely. If he dies, who will pay the money he owes me? Baba Fatai blinked. Eh? He turned to the man beside him, Kunle the tailor. Kunle said, You are strong, oh. But Baba Fatai heard. I hope he doesn't remember I slept with his wife that night he was drunk. Baba Fatai's eyes widened. His chest tightened. Cold sweat crawled down his back like lizard. He looked around the room. People were talking, smiling, acting concerned. But inside his head, voices were shouting, whispering, confessing. If he mentioned my name, I am finished. This man knows too much already. Maybe the fall will make him forget. Baba Fatai screamed. Everybody jumped back. Water! Mama Ejiro shouted. He's awake but mad, someone whispered. Baba Fatai covered his ears. It did nothing. Because the voices were not outside, they were inside him. By evening, the whole village had heard that Baba By evening, the whole village had heard that Baba Fatai survived. By evening, the whole village had heard that Baba Fatai survived the fall. What they did not know was that something else had survived with him. That night, as he lay on his mat at home, unable to sleep, his wife, Moreni Keji, turned to him. Fatai, you sure you're okay? She asked softly, but her thoughts were loud. If he finds out about Kuli, I will swear on anything. Baba Fatai stared at the ceiling. The ceiling stared back. Outside the village was quiet. Inside his head, nothing would ever be quiet again. And somewhere in the darkness, a truth that had been buried for years began to stretch, yawn, and prepared to stand up. By the third day after the fall, Baba Fatai discovered two things. First, he was not mad. Second, the village was mad, and he could hear it clearly now. At first, he thought the voices would fade like headache after palm wine, but instead of fading, they became organized. They lined up neatly in his head, each one waiting for its turn to disgrace somebody. When Moreni Keji handed him a hot pap that morning and said, "Eat more," her thoughts replied, "If he dies now, I can marry Kule in peace." Baba Fatai dropped the spoon. "Why you know it?" she asked, alarmed. He looked at her long enough to make her uncomfortable. "Pap hot," he said finally. But inside him, something cracked quietly. The first time Baba Fatai used the gift, it was by accident. Mama Ej- Mama Ejiro stormed into his compound later that day, hands on hips. "Fatai, where is my money?" "What money?" Baba Fatai asked weakly. She opened her mouth to answer, but her thoughts rushed ahead of her like stubborn children. "The one I stole from the church purse. If he denies owing me, I will lie." Baba Fatai's mouth spoke before his brain caught up. "You mean the money you removed from church offering box last Sunday?" Silence fell like NEPA light, sudden and complete. Mama Ejiro's wrapper loosened. "Which offering box?" she croaked. Neighbors gathered as if someone had shouted free food. Mama Ejiro began to shout, cry, swear, curse. But Baba Fatai had already seen it all, clear like palm wine in a clean keg. By evening, the story had run faster than motorcycle on express road. The next day, people started coming on purpose. At first, they pretended it was coincidence. "Ah, Baba Fatai, you dey here? Please tell me. My husband is not cheating again. Good afternoon, sir. Does my daughter know I'm not her real father? Sorry about your fall, oh. If he talks, I'll poison him." Baba Fatai quickly learned something important. People's mouths were polite, their minds were criminal. Soon Baba Fatai became something like a local miracle. Couples came with fake smiles and real fear. "Baba Fatai, greet us oh," a woman would say. Her husband will nod calmly, while thinking if she finds out about the girl in Ibadan, "I am finished." Baba Fatai will sign and say some men should learn to rest their body. Fights will break out before evening. The funniest day was when Pastor Samuel visited. The whole village followed him like procession. Pastor Sam clasped Baba Fatai's hand. "My brother, God has spared your life," he said warmly. But Baba Fatai heard, "If this man mention my name, church is finished." Baba Fatai laughed. "Pastor, your prayer are strong," he said, "but your thoughts need deliverance." The pastor's smile froze halfway. By Sunday, Pastor Samuel had transferred himself to another town for God's work. Money followed Baba Fatai, nothing openly, quietly. People dropped yams, goats, cash wrapped in nylon. Just pray for me, they would say, but their minds begged, please don't say my own. Baba Fatai's fame grew faster than his wisdom, and with fame came carelessness. One evening at the palmwine joint, drunk and proud, they laughed and shouted, if you get secrets, don't sit near me, oh. People laughed, but inside their head, fear screamed. That night, Baba Fatai heard something that did not belong to gossip, not adultery, not stolen money, from Chief Ogunleye, the richest man in the village, sitting quietly at the corner. The chief said nothing, but his thoughts came heavy and cold. If this palm wine taba opens his mouth, I will bury him like the others. Baba Fatal's laughter died. For the first time since the fall, he wished he could fall again, this time into silence. After Chief Oguleye's thought entered Baba Fatai's head, sleep became an enemy, not the normal kind of sleeplessness where you turn left, turn right, count ceilings cracks. This one was worse. Whenever Baba Fatai closed his eyes, thoughts became louder, as if darkness gave their permission. I pushed him into the river. The child is not my husband's. We buried it behind the cocoa farm. Baba Fatai began to sweat even when the night was cold. He started avoiding people, but people refused to avoid him. They came smiling, laughing, pretending nothing was wrong, while their minds shouted emergencies. The first blood related secret slipped out on a market day. Market day in Okeirora was not for buying things alone. It was for showing new wrappers, settling old grudges, and hearing fresh gossip. Baba Fata went only because he needed salt. He should have stayed home. As he passed the pepper store, he heard a thought so sharp it almost cut him. She's not my sister. She's the child we buried and dug up again. He staggered. The voice belonged to Shola, a quiet woman selling tomatoes. Her mouth was smiling, but her head was screaming. Baba Fatai vomited. People rushed to him. Baba Fatai, what is it? Before he could stop himself, he pointed at Shola. That child beside you, she died before. The market froze. Shola screamed. By nightfall, the story had grown legs and teeth. Elders gathered, accusations flew, a body was exhumed, they found bones. Comedy packed its bag and left quickly. That night, stones hit Baba Fatai's roof, which someone shouted. His wife cried. Baba Fatai heard her thought clearly now. These gifts will kill us. Chief Oguleye did not send threats through others. He came himself. Two FT boys followed him like punctuation marks. He sat in Baba Fatai's compound. My son, he said, smiling. But his mind spoke plainly. I have ended bigger men than you. Baba Fatai's knee shook. You fell from a tree, the chief continued. Sometimes people fall from respect too. I don't want trouble. Baba Fatai whispered. Chief Ogunleye stood up. Good, he said. Then Lane went to be deaf. As he walked past away, one last thought dropped like a coin into Baba Fatai's soul. The night I put your calm brother into the river, nobody saw. Baba Fatai collapsed. He had never told anyone how his younger brother died. From that day, Baba Fatai's gifts turned against him. He could no longer laugh. Palm wine tasted bitter. Every truth he held inside him burned like acid. The village that once begged him now crossed the road to avoid him. Children stopped greeting. Elders whispered. Plans were being made, not all thoughts were accidental anymore. Some people thought loudly on purpose, hoping to confuse him, but danger has a smell, and Baba Fatai could smell it coming. When truth becomes a curse, the meeting was called on a Thursday in Oke Irora. Any meeting called on a Thursday meant one thing: someone's fate was about to be discussed without their permission. The town crier did not mention Baba Fatai's name, but Baba Fatai heard it anyway. In the thought of everyone who passed his compound that morning, today it will end. We can't allow this man to finish us. Truth is good, but not like this. By the time Baba Fatah reached the village square, the elders were already seated like carved wooden gods, faces hard, eyes pretending to be natural. Chief Obule sat in the center smiling. They did not ask Baba Fatai to sit. That alone told him everything. The ballet cleared his truth. My people, he began, we are here to talk about peace. But his thoughts betrayed him. This man has exposed too many things, one elder spoke. Since Baba Fatai fell from the tree, trouble has been falling with him. Another added, homes are broken, blood has been uncovered. Fear is now walking freely. Baba Fatai wanted to speak, but 100 thoughts slammed into him at once. If we kill him, will the gods forgive us? He must not leave this place alive. Let's send him away instead. The noise in his head became unbearable. He screamed. Silence followed. They took that scream and named it madness. The verdict was gentle on the surface and brutal underneath. Baba Fatah was to be cleansed. He would stay in the old shrine at the edge of the forest for 7 days. No visitors, no palm wine, no talking. If he returned normal, he would stay. If not, nobody finished the sentence. Nobody needed to. The shrine smelled like rots and forgotten prayers. At night, Abba Fatah lay cold on earth, shaking, listening to thoughts float through the forest like spirit. Animals thought too. He had known that fear had no language. It was universal. On the fifth night, Murunkedi came. She knelt outside the shrine crying, I never meant to hurt you, she said, but her thought arrived first, quick and final. I pray you will die in that fall. Baba Fatah wept like a child. The truth did not feel powerful anymore. It felt lonely. That same night, he heard the last secrets not from the living, from himself. The fall, the rope, the tree. The thought he had heard before sleeping, he must fall today. It was his own voice. The truth rose slowly, painfully. He had known something that morning, something about his brother's death, something about the chief and his mind, afraid, tired, had to choose four. The gift was not punishment, it was payment. By the seventh day, Baba Fatai came out thinner, quieter, emptied. The elders watched him closely. Do you still hear voices? The ballet asked. Baba Fatai smiled. No, he said. But that was a lie. He had just learned how to keep them inside. When Baba Fatai returned from the shrine, Okirura welcomed him like a man who had already been buried once. People greeted him carefully. Now, good morning, they said, but their thoughts stayed low, disciplined like children who want not to talk. The village had learned something important. Thoughts could kill. Baba Fatai stopped tapping palm wine, not because his legs couldn't climb anymore, but because he had learned something worse than fear. Knowledge. He took to sitting under the almost tree near his house, carving small wood animals he gave to children. He smiled more often now, not because he was happy, but because smiling confused people. Inside, The voices never stopped, it simply stopped answering. Chief Ogunleye fell sick during the dry season, not the loud kind of sickness that announces itself with coughing and shouting. This one was quite respectful, rich. Prayer rose and fell. One evening, Baba Fatai had Chief's thoughts float across the village like tired smoke. I should have pushed him harder into the river. Baba Fatai closed his eyes. For the first time, he did not feel anger, only release. On the day Chief Ogunleye died, rain fell like apology. The village mourned properly. They invited Baba Fatai. He came as the chief lay in his coffin. Baba Fatai heard the final confession. Your brother did not die alone. Baba Fatai nodded gently. That truth no longer needed, sir. Years passed. Children grew up believing Baba Fatai was just a harmless old man who carved toys and smiled too much. Only one child ever asked him the right question. Baba, the boy said, is it better to know everything or to know peace? Baba Fatai smiled. A dry, cracked sound. Peace, he said, because the truth no get respect for human rights. That night, Baba Fatai lay down and slept. The thoughts faded one by one. Silence finally came, not as a gift, but as mercy. In the morning, they found him smiling. Under his mat was a small carving, a palmwine tree, broken in the middle. Not one had his last thought, but the village felt it. And for the first time in many years, Okirora slept without secret screaming in the dark. The end.